So before I start doing the wiring, let's figure out which connections we need. So because these fans, they have 4 different contact points. So I'm very sure that the white is ground. So I have a DC connected into the mains here, and it's at 12 volts. And you can see I'm touching them because 12 volts, like, you can't really feel them. I can't, at least. So I'm gonna put the black one, which is usually ground, into the one that I believe is ground. And let's just, this is sewing pins, and let's just touch the other connectors. Nothing, nothing. Oh, we have something. There we go. We've got instant high speed fan. Very nice. So we know straight away it's the first 2 pins. So to manage all these cables, I come up with a little connector, and I'll show you how I achieve this. So these are sewing needle pins, and they're used for gathering fabrics together, like 2 layers, like that basically. And I'm going to use these as pins basically. The problem is they are slightly sharp, but I'm not going to really focus on that. That is not really the problem. The problem is actually just getting them all into one and just getting them connected. So I'm going to ignore the sharpness. So I have made quite a few different ones. Now they are for different sizes, because since the tolerance of these holes is so tight, I needed to make quite a few until the size feels perfect, so they actually fit in. You can slightly see the little pinholes, and for some other sizes you can't see them at all. However, I'm going to include all these different sizes. I think there's going to be 3 different sizes actually involved. So for example, one size fits perfectly for PLA, but when the same size is printed on PETG, which is these, it's completely different. So that's why I'm going to include all different sizes. So from the previous clip, after looking at the ground wire, which has a little grey stripe on it, we also know that the positive wire is next to it, so it's here. So where we're going to connect the pins is going to be next to this line and the one next to it, not these sides. So if we have a look at this, let's just burn the excess stringing off quickly. Just like that. Just so there's no excess stringing. And we can do a little test fit. We can see that they fit in nicely. And they only go in one way because obviously of these 2 little extrusion points. So I know that this is going to be the right one, but let me just show you what happens and how I fit them in here. So to double check, the grey wire is here, so here. And that would be on the left side. So flip it over and let's just try to fit it in, and by hand it won't fit in, so I would use a little pliers. But this is the wrong size because this does not fit in, so I'll put that away. And I know this one isn't there either. I know it's this one that works for me because I can see the holes are slightly larger. So again, I lost my position. Which way is it going to be? It's going to be this way, so this way, and it's going to be the left side. And I'm not going to push this in all the way, but you can see it fits in just right. So I'm gonna get some of these pins, and if the pin bends, I advise getting a different pin and use the other one, otherwise you're gonna have problems with orientation. Again, I'm not gonna push it in all the way because we're gonna have to wrap a wire around it. So let me just get it closer. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just pushing the pin in. Oh, this one's a bit too loose. I'm not going to actually plug these needles into all 4 holes. I'm only just going to do the first 2 because we just need the ground and the positive. We don't need all pins. Now obviously you don't have to go through this method to connect all the fans together. You can just snip the wires off and just solder them directly, since these fans are quite high quality. For example, if one fan breaks, that means you would have to unsolder all the wires, and I don't want that method. I'd rather it be modular in a way. So if one fan breaks, I could just unplug one, and then I could just connect a new one in. But as I mentioned, I'm not going to push them in all the way just yet because we need to wrap the wires around them so they all connect. Now you can see some of the left side, I did push in the pin by accident all the way in. But since I'm using quite a loose fitting of this, as you can see I got 4 different ones of them, I can easily back it out from this side, like that, see? And now I can actually put the wire on that's going to connect them all in parallel. So you can see I'm backing them all out. Okay, so I've got my DC female connector here where the power supply is going to get connected to. And the idea is that we cut these wires and reveal the actual cores themselves so that we can wrap them around those pins. So we're going to have to make sure that the polarity is correct once we reveal the wires. Now let's see how much we actually need. So it's going to be around that much, but they are going to twist and turn, so I'm going to cut a bit more off. So that should be enough. And now I need to be careful to, actually I'm going to cut the ends off because they've got a bit of solder on them. And now I'm going to strip a little bit at a time, because the more that you strip, the more tension is going to be while you're pulling the insulation off. Nearly there. Okay, that's one wire, so I'm just gonna twist it. Okay, so one of the sides is ready. Okay, that should do. We do need to be careful so that the positive and negative do not touch, and I'm going to wrap around each of the wire around. See, like that, just one twist on each. It's actually wrapping around the second wire, so around the second pin, and we don't want that. To be honest, actually one of the pins is getting in the way, so it might have been a good idea to push one pin in whilst I do the other. So I could do that now actually, just to make sure they're out of the way. Ah, crap, I broke one of them. I have to remove that. Nearly there. Now for the last one, we're going to have to solder it, I think. Just make sure that they're not touching the other pin. But now we can actually push it down. That looks great. Okay, I got a little clamp here to make sure it doesn't topple over. I'm going to use my soldering iron to just solder the metal pins a little bit. And remember that we have plastics here, so we can't hold the solder on for too long. But this goes on very nicely, very quickly. So that's very good. See how nicely that goes on. Also make sure you don't get the other pin, of course, as mentioned 10 times already. And this makes sure that the contact is solid. Done. And now we can actually cut off this excess here. And this time I'm going to wrap from the outside. Well, before I was wrapping it from the outside as well, just from the other outside. I'm going to push them in bit by bit, not all at once. And again, checking that they don't make contact with the other side. Okay, that should be done. Now you can see this might be problematic a little bit. Like you can see, the pins are sticking out a little bit. But I'm going to ignore them for now, and I just want to check that they work. So let's just connect one of them first, and then turn on the power supply. You see, if you try the wrong way around, it won't connect, which is good. See, I just stabbed myself with the pins because they're sharp. And we have power. Perfect. Okay, you know what? I decided I'm going to be a little bit excessive, so I'm going to have a mask on. And we're done. That only took us like a minute or two extra, so why not do it? I mean, now it's not dangerous and now it's smooth. And you see, once they're soldered on, those pins, they pose little problems in terms of like coming out. As in, like from the other side, that they don't get pushed out as they would before. Okay, so now that I know that this is doing its job properly, and we've got the pins nice and smooth, we can actually fixate it into position. So I know that the power is this way, because we have this AC and DC connectors here and the USB cables. I'm gonna fuse it here, and I'm gonna give a like 2 millimeters height, because obviously these pins are a little bit higher. So, and I'm gonna use a soldering iron just to melt the pieces in place. So let's just put it like that. Now, yeah, I do realize that this piece is separate from the whole single unit, and that is because this was an afterthought actually of me making this whole frame. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's actually better that it's separate, because the sizes of the pins and the holes can be so picky. Say you print it and you get the sizing wrong, you choose the wrong size and it doesn't fit, it's going to be a bit problematic. And besides, doing it this way, I mean, it's just, look how straightforward it is. Just a matter of melting it together. And then I'm going to melt it from the inside too. Just make sure it's nice and tight and doesn't come off. Bit harder for you to see, guys, but you know what I'm doing. I'm just pushing the soldering iron in, not too much, just so they fuse together. Because if you push too much, you'll go inside where the connector is, and then you won't get to push the actual connector in all the way. Again, would be a bit of a problem. But see, that's nice and fused already, so it's a very quick job, better than super glue. It's much quicker. Done. So now we can connect them up again. And when I say again, I mean, yeah, I already had them connected, so that's what I'm saying again. Second in, and now you see I'm not really worried about my fingers anymore, because the pins are lower than the actual connector itself. So happy days. No worrying about that. Look how tidy that is going in. There we go. All of them are nicely in. Look at that. Now, do we want to cable tie them? Let's just do another check. Make sure that they are all working. Nothing went wrong. And all of them are. Wonderful. I'm so proud of this. Look how cool that looks. You might want to hot glue maybe these, just so that any materials where this is standing on doesn't make contact with each other. Could do that. And you can just cable tie them to the honeycomb. Actually, that would work out very well. And again, not too tight. Because remember, we've got fragile cables to worry about. We don't want to damage them at all. Where do I want a cable time? Like that, I say. Here we go. Now I am being a bit anal with how tidy they are now, because this looks incredible, so I am being a bit overly proud. There we go, that looks good to me. I'm gonna cut that off. Something like that will do. I shouldn't be too picky, just fine like that. Let's do more check. Yep, all good. Or I could just cable tie it to these cables, I guess. Just to prevent excessive movement and not too tight. There we go, just like that. That's it. And yeah, I will go the extra mile. I will hot glue these with a little bit of hot glue. So this is pretty much the last step. I have the hot glue gun set on medium / low, because obviously we don't want to overheat this PETG. So let's just squish it out just to protect the circuit. A bit more squish than needed to. Not squish. Pushed out a bit too much plastic. But now I can just use this. Just spread it just with a piece of paper. Just make sure it's covering all the contacts. And it's not too hot, so I'm not worried about that. And just spread it a little bit. Okay. There we go. Very powerful.